So you want to buy a house. That is awesome. Home ownership is a wonderful thing. The home buying process is a long process that you need a guide with you every step of the way to help you. And that's where I come in. I'm a realtor. My name's Evan Deal and I'm with eXp Realty. And I'm going to walk you through step by step what the home buying journey looks like. So it starts out, you really want to start honestly on the finance side of things with your pre-approval, because the pre-approval sets the stage for everything that's to come. It lets you know how much budget you'll have, what your purchasing power is going to be for your home. So before you ever start looking at homes, getting that financial picture in place is going to be the best first step. And then from there, you're going to work with an agent to start looking at homes. You're going to tap into a home search, make a list of places that might be a good fit for you, identify that perfect home. And then once you identify that, to tour those homes with a purpose, see how it's a good fit for you. And when you find the right one, you put in an offer. When that offer gets accepted, you go under contract with the seller, and you've basically agreed to purchase the house from them. They've agreed to sell the house to you. And from there, you go into the under contract phase, which includes inspections. You're making sure everything's good with the house on your end and getting any minor repairs done that need to be done, as well as appraisal, where the bank is making sure that everything looks good from their end, that the asset that they are lending you money for is going to be worth what the purchase price is. And then from there, you go into closing when the transfer of property happens. That's basically the whole process in a nutshell. And it can be twisty and turny along the way, but it's very important to set your expectations from the start that it is going to be a process and you need a good partner in place. So your realtor is there to be your partner throughout the whole thing, to be your Sherpa guiding you up the mountain, and they will help make it easy and simple in each step of the way. Instead of making it this big gargantuan process, it's making it small bite-sized chunks that you get through each of these checkpoints on your way to the finish line. So let's dig a little deeper into each of the steps of the home buying process and really explore what's in each one. Let's talk about communication with your agent. Communication is the number one thing in real estate transactions. You have to be open and transparent about what your goals are, or your agent can't properly work on your behalf. Agents exist literally to represent you and to be your number one person in the transaction. We are here to stand by you every step of the way. Your interests are our interests. Just like a lawyer or a CPA or anyone else you hire on your behalf, a plumber, a real estate agent is simply there to represent your interests and to do the work needed to engineer your success in the real estate transaction. So whether that's being upfront about the areas you're looking for, doing the things needed in the background to make sure that your transaction's going successfully, like getting your pre-approval in place, responding in a timely manner when your agent has asked you for certain things. They're not doing it to place burdens on you. They're doing it to make sure that you get what you're looking for. So make sure your objectives are always clear to them, and your realtor will work on your behalf to make sure those objectives become a reality. And so that's what we're paid to do. And ultimately, here's the great thing for you. Realtors don't get paid unless you're successful in the transaction. Nobody gets paid in a real estate transaction until the very end of things, when the transaction closes. So your realtor is always going to be working hard on your behalf to make sure that that deal goes through, and that the house that you want, whether you're selling it or you're buying, your realtor is there to make sure that happens the way you want it to happen. So keep those communication channels clear, whether it's text or email or calling. Just stay in touch because your agent should be staying in touch with you. But it's a two-way street, and the more open and energetic you are in the transaction, the easier it makes it for everyone. So keep those channels clear and just be really excited to work with your agent. All right, let's talk about every single person's favorite part of the real estate transaction: working with a lender to get your mortgage. Okay, just kidding. But this is a very, very critical step early on in the transaction. And I counsel all of my buyers to start here before they start looking at homes, because ultimately you need to know what your budget is going to be for your home, how much house you can afford, what's going to make sense for your lifestyle, and ultimately what your goals are in terms of purchasing the home. So after you've met with your real estate agent to establish your strategy for moving forward in the buying process, Next, you're going to want to pick a lender and start working with them to get your pre-approval letter in place. Now, this is a little different than a pre-qualification letter. Pre-qualification is a bit more informal. There's not really as much that goes into it, but a pre-approval letter, when you select a lender, whether that's a bank or a mortgage broker, mortgage company, what they're going to do is go through all of your finances. They'll pull your credit, they'll look at bank statements, they'll look at sources of income, everything you can think of. They're going to ask you for it, and they're going to get a full 360-degree view of your finances to help you understand fully what level of debt you can take on if you're looking to finance a home. So they will give you an accurate portrayal of what you're able to afford and what you're approved for from a financing standpoint. So there are all different types of lenders to work with. Primarily, people will go with credit institutions or banks or mortgage companies, but you can do your research and see what's a good fit for you. And it doesn't even hurt to interview multiple different types of institutions, and your realtor may be able to point you towards some that they've worked with in the past who have been good fits for their clients. But definitely do your own research and see who's a good fit for you, because they're going to be one of your key partners in the process. Once you pick your lender partner, they will start pulling all that information from you. There's usually an online application, but they can also work offline as well. So no matter what your credit score is, you really need to start working with a lender to see what their minimum requirements are, what different types of loan programs they might have that fit your specific need. There's so many options out there, and real estate professionals like your realtor and then your lending team are very creative in terms of finding the right solution that's ultimately going to help you get to where you want to go and help you get the house of your dreams. So get that pre-approval letter in place. Really start to understand what your financial picture is going to look like, and that will help you so much before starting the process of looking at homes. And the faster you can get this done, the faster it's going to be in terms of you jumping in the process fully. And what you want to avoid is finding that home of your dreams, really getting everything done from a home search standpoint, and you find that perfect home, but then not having your pre-approval letter in place. And when you put in an offer on that home, that seller is not going to know that you have the right financial backing or that you have a legitimate offer. The pre-approval really helps with that, and it gives them a firm confidence of, yes, this person qualifies for this home and they are ready to go. So work with your lender, find them right now. If you don't have any ideas for where to start, ask your agent. They'll have some good ideas. Let's really get to the fun part now, and that is starting your home search. So this is where most people start, right? Before they even jump into anything, without planning, without meeting with anyone, they start looking at homes. Maybe they go on Zillow or Realtor.com or realtors' websites or social media, and they just start looking at dream homes and visualizing themselves in certain places. And that's great. That excitement is going to carry you through the process and help you get to your goals. Look at the previous steps. Start with the strategy session with your real estate agent. Start with the finances to get your budget with your lender, and then move into this step. So your real estate agent is there to help you find the perfect home, and they can set you up on a search that will send matching listings directly to your inbox or to text you or whatever is best for you from a communication standpoint. And they can share properties directly with you as well, ones that they find, maybe it's even ones that they've listed. And what you need to know is what's most important to you, because your team needs to know that so they can set you up for success. So if the thing that's most important to you is the type of house and maybe you're a little whatever on location, let them know that. If it's location, and usually location is the first thing for most people, let them know that. If you're a little flexible on that, like maybe you're willing to hop across different school districts or different counties, be sure they know that. Sometimes people want to live in a specific zip code, and that's fine. But that may limit your options depending on the area and the availability. But really talk through exactly what you're looking for with your agent, because they will be able to come up with creative solutions to best suit your needs. And that holds true for different features of the home as well. So it's not just number of bedrooms, number of baths, not just size of home. Really think through the functionality of your home on a day-to-day basis. It's not just how it looks like, the aesthetics. Is it a brick wrap versus siding? Or is it old house versus new construction? But really think through on a day-to-day basis, how does your home work to put you in a successful place? Whether, if that success is a certain way of working, like you need a home office or having the best family time possible or whatever you need for your home. Really think through what that looks like each and every day. Is it having an attached garage so you're not, walking through the rain to get to your house on a rainy day? Is it, making sure to have a basement because you have a lot of toys or something that you need space for, or exercise equipment? Is a one-story house going to suit you better than a two-story house because you just had a double knee replacement? There's a number of factors to think about here, but really, really work with your agent, come up with that strategy, and they're going to be able to help you find the perfect homes that match that criteria and fit within that budget range you established with your lender. So you started your home search, you have your strategy in hand, you have your financing in hand, you're ready to start looking at homes. You found a few that you like or you might like. Now what you want to do is set up some touring days with your agent. And my recommendation wouldn't be to do one here, one there, one here, one there. What I would recommend is find a group of houses that you really like, and could be in the same area, could be even be in different areas, and work with your agent to set up a day or a chunk of a day to really go tour those back to back, so you get an idea of comparing them more easily one to one. And while you're there, take notes, whether it's just mental notes or notes on your phone. Really think through how each house is going to fit what you're looking for and if it's a good fit for your needs and your budget. So when you're going through these houses, tour with a purpose. What you want to do is go through them, look for any different condition notes. This is something where your real estate agent is going to come in very handy because they're very experienced in looking for these types of things. They look beyond the surface of what most people are going to do. Most people are pretty great at judging the aesthetics of the home, if it's going to be a good fit for them, looking at the layout, things like that. But pick your realtor's brain on the flashing around the chimney, or the trim and potential wood rot areas, or crawl space versus basement, or how the layout of the home works for different people. We had one example recently where there was a family with young kids, and they were looking at a home where the loft had the types of bars where a young kid could easily fit their head through and potentially get stuck. So it's like, hey, look at that. That's something to potentially watch out for here. And they were very grateful for that. So you never know. When you're out buying a house, it's really great to partner with your agent and use them as a resource to help answer any questions you may have. They'll also be able to dive deep into the listings, pull up any public and private remarks on what the sellers of the house have to say about their property and what they've disclosed. So when you tour with a purpose, have a goal in mind, and have a defined strategy with your real estate agent to be sure that you're not going to see homes just to look at homes. You're only looking at homes that you have a chance of purchasing that really have a good fit for you. It's kind of like just to date versus dating to marry. You're looking for the long-term fit with this home. Don't just accept any home. Really go after the ones that are a really good fit for you and ultimately meet your goals. The market, the market, the market. Everyone wants to talk about the market in real estate. Is it a good market? Is it a bad market? Here's the real truth. You can buy and sell in any type of market. People were still buying and selling in 2008, 2009. People were still buying and selling during COVID. You can buy in any market. You can sell in any market. And your real estate agent is going to help set you up for success no matter what that market is. So let's talk about a couple common terms here. You may have heard of a buyer's market and a seller's market. And typically what that means is it's more advantageous for buyers in the buyer's market or for sellers in the seller's market. What you want to do with your strategy can alter based on what type of market it is. So if it's a seller's market and you're going to buy a house, keep in mind that the sellers may have multiple offers on their house. So when you come in with an offer, if you're offering $10,000 below asking and the listing agent calls your agent and says, hey, we have 3 offers on this house, know that you may not be getting that house. You may need to come in a little more aggressively. Conversely, if it's a buyer's market, know that that house that you're interested in buying may have been on the market for 6 weeks already without an offer, or only with offers that the seller wasn't interested in. So work with your agent to identify what the circumstances are that you're operating in. But you can succeed no matter what type of market it is. You just need to be clear with your agent, and your agent needs to keep you apprised of what those market dynamics are that are going to affect you. So when you're putting in offers, or if you're on the selling side, when you're selling your house, just keep these different market dynamics in mind and you'll be good to go. So you found your dream house with your agent and now you're ready to put in your offer. How do you get the house? How do you write up a strong offer? And this is where having the right agent who knows exactly what you're looking for and what your situation is going to help. So the elements of a strong offer include making it as clean as possible for the seller and giving the seller the highest confidence that you're going to be able to follow through on the purchase. We've listed houses before that have had offers come through that looked good on the surface, but ultimately maybe their financing wasn't as strong or they put in too many contingencies and they weren't as attractive as other offers. And on the opposite side, we've worked with buyers who they've tried to get quote unquote the best deal possible, but they ultimately lose out on the house because of a couple $1,000s when it was their dream house. Because of the way they wanted to put in an offer. You're probably tired of me saying this, but you need to be clear with your agent what your ultimate goals are. Back when I bought my first house, we were trying to get the best price possible, and it was a really competitive market. And this was before I was a real estate agent, and we were trying to, get that last $1,000 shaved off of the purchase price. And we had a really great agent at the time, and he said, "Are you really willing to lose this house over $1,000?" We said, "No, what are we thinking? This is the perfect house for us." And so we adjusted our offer. So how clean can you make your offer? What kind of contingencies are you putting in? If it's a seller's market and they have multiple offers on the table and you need to stand out, you could look at things like waiving inspection, for instance, if you wanted to. Now, in most cases, I wouldn't recommend that depending on the home, but it could be a way of standing out if you're willing to take on the additional risks of the home. An inspection contingency means that you can back out of the purchase based on the results of the inspection. The same thing is true with financing. If you're able to purchase a home in cash, that's a much stronger offer than someone who's coming with heavily amount of financed money to the transaction. So if you're able to put more down, it shows a stronger commitment to the purchase of the home. So there are all different levers that you can pull with the offer. And it's important to keep these in mind and to work with your agent to leverage which ones are best for you. Now, in a buyer's market, you can keep most of those contingencies in, and it's not going to affect your offer as much because the seller may just be looking for any offer, or they may be looking just for a solid offer. So in a buyer's market, you might be able to offer at asking price or even a little lower depending on how long the home has been on the market. But if it's a seller's market, you may be looking at offering several $1,000s above asking price. Back in 2020, 2021, homes in the Indianapolis area were going for easily several $1,000s above asking, sometimes many times more than that. And in the years that have followed, a lot of homes have been going under contract for either at asking price or below. Work with your agent and understand the market, and that's going to set you up for success with your offer. So let's talk about once your offer is accepted and you've gone under contract. There's a number of different things that have to happen before you can close on the house. The biggest of which are ordering appraisal, making sure your earnest money is in, going through the inspection process and any negotiations therein, and getting your final loan approval. So all these things happen in sequence to make sure that the house goes from just an agreed upon offer between two parties to actually completing the transaction, and everyone is paid and resolved and everything's clean and clear and ready to go. So your whole real estate team is going to work on your behalf for this, your lender, your agent, any transaction coordinators that work with your agent, as well as all the different people at all these different parties, from your lending company and the appraiser they use, and your inspector, and everyone in between, everyone on the list side as well, and the seller of the home and their agent. And there's hundreds of people that touch every real estate transaction. It's amazing. All these people work to help make this happen for you. And so ultimately, what you're looking at is your first step is going to be getting your earnest money in. So with your offer, you're saying, I agree to put this much down to show my intent to purchase this house. And usually that's just a small percentage of the overall purchase price, but it's your way of having a stake in the game and making sure you're saying, this is a serious offer. I'm putting forward
this many $1,000s to show you that I fully intend to purchase this house. From there, you go into ordering appraisal. Appraisal is usually ordered within the first couple weeks by the lender, and that is going to bring in a third-party person to say, hey, here's what the house is worth, and to make sure everyone in the deal is getting a fair representation, fair deal, and that the purchase price makes sense. And if not, there can be more negotiations later on, but we'll touch on that later. And then also you're going to be ordering your inspection. And the inspection is usually like 7 to 10 days after that agreed upon purchase price. And what is going to happen there is you hire an inspector to go through the home, and someone who's licensed and knowledgeable in this area, and they're going to tell you everything that there is to know about the home, whether good or bad, everything from the roof down to the basement or the crawl space, the foundation. That is what your inspector is there to do. So there's a number of contingencies that might be in your offer that need to be fulfilled along the way. Usually that has to do with getting financing, making sure your loan is clear, making sure everything appraises accurately, and making sure we get through the inspection process of everyone agreeing upon the condition of the home and any potential repairs that need to be done. The typical process, depending on your financing and these contingencies, it can be as little as a couple weeks all the way to a couple months. And it really depends on the level of negotiations and repairs and what contingencies are in place on your offer. But stay in touch with your real estate agent every step of the way. They're going to be able to guide you along this timeline and navigate all the different parties of the transaction. All right, you're under contract now. The negotiations went well. The seller accepted your offer. You're good to go, right? You're all done. We're just getting started. So now we're going to move into the under contract phase. And a big part of that is inspections. So inspections are critical because ultimately you want to know that the product you're purchasing, the home that you're buying, one of your biggest investments in life, is going to be everything that the seller says it is and everything that fits what you're looking for. And so what you're going to do here is hire a professional inspector, someone who does home inspections for a living, and they understand the space better than anyone. And what they will do is work on your behalf to look at every nook and cranny of the home to see if anything's wrong with it. And they're going to notate that in a big, long inspection report. And what you'll do with that inspection report is work with your agent to come up with a list of asks that you want of the seller, if anything. So some of the things they're going to look for when they do their inspection, they'll look at the roof and see, is there any leaks in the roof? They'll look at the chimney, if there's a chimney on the house. How's the flashing look around the chimney? How's the mortar look? They'll look at the entire outside of the house. Is there any problem with the brick? Is there any problem with any of the vinyl siding on the house? Are there any showings of wood rot? Are there insects that are destroying the house? They'll look in the crawl space. They'll wedge themselves under the house and see, hey, is there any flooding down here? How's the sump pump? Is it working? Is there a backup sump pump? And a lot of these things are things that most people don't think of on a day-to-day basis. But that's your home inspector's job. They're going to tell you every single thing that either is a problem with the house, could be a problem, or was a problem in the past. They're going to look at the HVAC system and the AC unit. How new are they? How old are they? Have they been serviced? Are they in good working condition? They're going to test every faucet in the house, every light switch, every outlet. They will look at every single thing. They're going to tell you if the outlets in the kitchen are GFCI protected or not. They're going to tell you if things are up to the latest code. If you're purchasing a historical home, maybe there's an unfinished basement that's never been touched since the early 1900s, and there's no handrail going down those steep stairs. They're going to find stuff like that and identify it for you. This is especially important with older homes, which have certain things that are not in place that are under modern building standards. So you really want to hire a great home inspector. And if you don't know of any, or you haven't done your research on it, work with your agent, because I guarantee you they will have a good one, or two or three that they've worked with in the past or that their clients have used, who do a great job of this. But the inspection is a critical step you do not want to miss. And you want to be there with your inspector the whole time so you can ask them questions. A good inspector will be very friendly and help walk you through every step. And then between your inspector and your real estate agent, they'll be able to go through the report with you and help you identify what are the key things that you want to ask for from the seller of the home? What are the most important things? Now, there usually will be identified a lot of things in there, more than you're going to ask for. If you ask for every single thing, the seller may just say, I'm unwilling to do this, or I'm only willing to do some things. So what you want to do is strike the right balance of identifying what's most important to you. And usually that revolves around things that are not aesthetic related. If there's just something that's like a little bit of chipping paint, you can fix that. That's easy to do, easy to touch up or repaint. If it's the house is flooding, that's something you want to get addressed with the seller. And sometimes the seller may respond saying, yes, I'll fix this ahead of time before closing, or I'll give you a credit at closing so that you can fix it. Or they may reject it and they may say, no, I'm unwilling to do this. I want to sell as is. That's something where your agent works on your behalf to work with the agent for the seller on reaching a deal that's going to fit both parties, and both agents are going to represent their clients to their fullest extent and help broker a deal that works for everyone. All right, next up is something that most people buying a house do not think about, which is appraisals. And appraisals can make deals go a little sideways, depending on how it goes. So an appraisal is where a third party, usually hired by the bank, the lending institution for the home, they bring in someone from the outside who is a professional in this space at valuing homes, who goes through the home and identifies what their opinion of the value is. And this is the lending institution's way of making sure that they're getting into a good deal, that if something goes sideways with the mortgage, that they'll be able to recoup their funds. And so the appraiser's job is to be that representative and be an impartial third-party person who's not involved in the transaction, to put a value on the home. And where this can really impact a real estate transaction is if the appraisal comes in significantly different than purchase price. If it's significantly higher or significantly lower, things can start to get interesting. If the appraisal comes in right at purchase price or right around there, the deal usually will go forward as is, or with very minimal tweaks between the parties. But if you're purchasing a home and let's say you have an accepted offer for $300,000 and the appraisal comes in at $320,000. Well, that's going to be great from your end, because you feel that you're getting an asset that's not only worth what you're paying for it, but it's worth even more than you're paying for it. And if the seller is good with everything on their end, then everything will continue going forward. They may feel a little aggrieved that their asset seems worth more than it's under contract for, but the deal can go ahead because your financing will definitely cover that. But if appraisal comes in significantly lower than the agreed upon price, that's where the lending side of things can get a little iffy, and where you may need to do some finagling in the deal to make sure everyone's still satisfied and the deal can move forward. So let's say you're under contract for $300,000 and the appraisal comes in at $270,000. That's a 10% difference in the purchase price from the appraisal. So what'll need to happen there is it could be a price drop from the seller side. They may be willing to come down in what the agreed upon price is to make sure the deal still happens. You may be able to bring more cash to the table to help cover that appraisal gap. You may be able to split the difference with the seller as well. And in some cases, you can challenge the appraisal. So if you can look for a second opinion, you can ask for a second appraisal, or even pay for a second appraisal. So all of these are different options. The key thing to remember in real estate is that everyone ultimately wants the deal to happen. Everyone wants there to be a successful transaction. So keep that in mind and stay cordial with the other parties. Use your agent and their negotiation expertise to help you identify solutions when large appraisal gaps happen. But the good news is that if the appraisal operates relatively normally and everything's been priced accurately, you should be good to go and move forward into the next step of the transaction. All right, now we're ready to move into the loan finalization side of things. And what this goes into is a process called underwriting. And underwriting is the institution's ability to fully guarantee your loan, to say that, yes, all of this financing is in place. We are good with you, Mr. or Miss Buyer, as a client of ours, and we are ready to give you the mortgage you need to purchase this home, because we fully trust your willingness and ability to repay the debt you're taking on from us. Underwriting is going to look at every financial thing you have. They're going to look at all your tax return documents. They're going to look at your bank statements. They're going to look at any cash you have on hand, all of your assets available. And this is such a crucial stage because they are fully identifying everything that there is to know and making sure you are set up from a financial standpoint to be able to purchase the home that you're purchasing. While it seems like a long and lengthy process, it's very important to set you up for your long-term success. And so they're going to ask you for everything. They're going to ask you for banking details. They're going to ask you for tax returns. They're going to pull credit. And it's important that you stay on top of the deadlines here in a timely manner. Your real estate agent will help with that, and the lending institution is going to work with you directly to help with that, whether it's a mortgage company or a bank or whoever you're working with here. But that underwriting process is going to ultimately make sure you have the financing in place and it fully finalized to be able to purchase this home. And you can't close on the home until it's done. So staying on top of all your deadlines, getting your documents prepped is so critical. And if you have any questions along the way, stay in touch with your real estate team. I know I sound like a broken record at this standpoint, but the clearer your communication is with your agent, with your lending team, and with anyone else on your side in the transaction is so critical to your success. So be sure to follow along with what's needed and get it in place so your loan can get in place in time for you to close. And one more quick piece of advice: when you're in the underwriting process, when you're looking to buy a house, do not, under any circumstances, go out and make tons of large purchases, open new lines of credit, open a ton of new anything. Don't go buy a car. This is my advice as a realtor. These types of things are red flags for lending institutions. You want things to be as stable as possible during the process of underwriting. So work with your lending institution to get a full list of things you should and shouldn't do. But just in general, you want to keep major purchases to a minimum during this time so that your financial picture stays stable and that the lending institution can underwrite your loan successfully. All right, we are hurtling quickly to the closing table, which is where you want to be to finalize your transaction. And now, something that a lot of people don't think of when they get into the process of buying a home is closing costs. So closing costs are all sorts of different fees and expenses that are required to fully see the transaction through. And it's to ensure that everybody on every side of the transaction, both the buyer, the seller, the agents, the lending institution, the title company, everyone involved gets paid accurately and correctly. So that's all going to come on your closing statement, as well as all of your paperwork that you sign at closing. You will get a copy of everything. And anything that you don't understand, you can work with the title company and your real estate agent to ask questions as you go along and make sure you fully understand everything that's in there. So some of those closing fees are going to be the loan origination fee, any fees that are associated with your lender and the cost of getting your new financing together. There'll be your agent's fees. A lot of times these are covered in large part on the seller's end. So the seller will cover their agent's fees as well as usually at least a portion of the buyer's fees, but those are split. Make sure you understand when you're putting in your offer that you work with your agent to see what you might be responsible for their compensation. But on the buy side, a lot of the times, not every time, and it certainly depends on your location and locality, much of the time in Indiana, that will be covered, at least in part, by the seller. And there will be title fees as well. So the title company who's actually handling the closing and the transference of title and closing out everyone's accounts, they have fees associated with them as well. So these will all be listed and who's responsible for each on your closing statement. And the title company will walk through this with you, and your agent will as well, to be very 100% clear who's paying for what. Now, you may be asking, how much is it going to cost to close this house? Typically, they range from around 2 to 5%, and this can vary depending on all the different factors of the transaction. Some of this is going to be paid by the seller, things like the taxes, and your taxes are going to vary based on your locality and your state. Some states do taxes in arrears, some do not. There may be things that came up in your negotiations, like your inspection negotiations, that there may be credits at closing that were negotiated. And then on the buyer side, they're more responsible for the financing end of things, and also potentially compensating part of their agent as well. But you may have asked for, or your agent may have helped you negotiate in your offer, some closing cost assistance. something that's very common to ask for buyers when they're putting in that offer, to have assistance from the seller to help close the home. All of this is variable, all of it's negotiable, and that's very normal in a real estate transaction. So work with the professionals that are on your team to make sure you understand all of it and that everything's good to go for you to close in your home. All right, you're about to close on your home. What's the last step? It's final walkthrough. And that's exactly what it sounds like. You're going to tour the property one more time with one big objective in mind, and that is to verify the condition. So you've gone all throughout this process, you've negotiated potential repairs and credits and all sorts of things. You want to make sure that the massive asset that you're purchasing, your new home, is in the shape that it was negotiated to be. So if it was as is when you put in your offer, then it's going to be in whatever condition it's in. If it's something where you negotiated repairs with the seller and it's required to be in a certain state, you're going to make sure that those repairs have been done. Your agent will come with you, walk through the house with you, and make sure everything looks the way it's supposed to. But this is your chance right before closing to go through the home and verify that everything looks good before you make one of the biggest purchases of your life. So be sure to take your time, be thorough, and stay in open communication with your agent to make sure everything looks the way that you expect it to. And if not, then there may need to be some last minute negotiations or communications between your agent and the seller's agent to make sure everything's in place the way you want it. All right, we've arrived at the big day. It's time for closing. Let's get you your new home. So we've gone through the final walkthrough, and now we are sitting down at the closing table. In different states, this is handled differently, so be sure to check whatever your local area has, and with your agent. But in Indiana, we conduct closings at a title company. So typically, you'll go to the title company and sit down with them to sign all of your paperwork. And what's that paperwork look like? The number one thing is the deed. Your deed says that you own this parcel, this home, this piece of property, and the deed transfers from the seller to the buyer during the transaction. So that deed is the most important document because it establishes your ownership. You also have all of your final loan documents that will outline clearly how much that you've borrowed, what the payment schedule looks like, what your interest rate is, and all of the details to the financing the home. If you're paying in cash, it's a little different because you're just paying in cash. But for most people, when they take on a mortgage, they'll have lots of loan paperwork that clearly identifies what that payment looks like over the next 15 years or 30 years or whatever your mortgage is for. And then finally, you'll have the settlement statement as well. The settlement statement, as I mentioned in an earlier video, lists out who's paying for what the buyer's paying for, what the seller's paying for, and how much falls into each of those categories. Who has what credits, who has what responsibilities. If that's all outlined, and be sure to work with the title company and with your agent to explain every line. And you should see that ahead of time so that there are no surprises once you get to the closing table. Also required at closing will be your financing. Oftentimes you'll need to have a cashier's check or some sort of certified payment, wire transfer for however much you're responsible for that closing. So usually companies will require some sort of certified funds to make sure it's a firm transfer of money for the exact amount that's required of you. And once again, that's detailed on the settlement statement. So you'll be working with your bank ahead of time, or whatever institution you're using for your funds, to get that money in place and to make sure anything that you're responsible for on the buyer side of the transaction, or the seller side if you're the seller, goes into place and everyone gets paid appropriately and everything gets taken care of for all the parties involved in your transaction. In some cases, there may not be much to bring to the table depending on what you've negotiated as the buyer. But in other cases, you may have several $1,000s to pay. It really just depends on what's been negotiated, and work with your agent to make sure you are fully clear on what your responsibilities are and what the right mechanisms are to make sure that payment's in place. So the title officer is going to work through the closing. They're going to have you sign all of your paperwork, and once that paperwork's in place for both parties, the transaction will be completed. The deed will transfer with the county once everything's filed appropriately, and you will be the owner of a brand new home. So make sure You are super clear on everything you're signing. Your agent's there to be your advocate, your assistant, and to explain anything you need along the way. And once you're all done with all that, it's time to celebrate. You're going to get the keys to your new home and you can drive there. I'm assuming that your agent got you possession at closing, because then you're going to unlock the door and celebrate your new home. And be sure to celebrate with your agent, because they've been with you every step of the way and they love to see your success. That's ultimately why all of us agents are in this business, to help people and to help people with what can often be the most stressful purchase of their lives. And moving's a big thing, right? And so it's so fun when you get to that closing table and when you ultimately complete the transaction and get to take that next major step in your life. All right, you have your new house. What comes next? The whole stress and excitement of the transaction can be overwhelming at times. And then your move could potentially be chaotic too. You got to pack up your entire apartment or house or wherever you're moving from and bring it to your new place and start unpacking. But there's a lot to think about as you move forward. Really look at, making sure you have the right insurance coverage for your home and you're protecting that asset that you've spent so much on. In a lot of cases, your agent may have negotiated a home warranty for your home, which helps give you additional protection, especially for older homes. This can be really helpful to have in place. You're establishing your new routines in your new life. It could be in a new area or just your new setup at your new house. These are all things that you're going to work through next. And your agent's not gone. They're still your agent. They are still there to help you and support you. So if you have any questions or problems that arise, be sure to reach out to your agent, because they want to help you. So even though the transaction closed, they're not gone forever. And you may look for other opportunities in the future as well. So interest rates are higher now, but you're considering a potential refinancing in a few years when rates are different, or when you have a different financial situation for yourself. That could be something to look forward to in the future as well. You could be looking at remodeling, or you could be looking at potentially having additions to the home. And if you have any questions on that, be sure to reach out to your agent. They're really knowledgeable in these spaces. And if they don't have direct experience in an area, they're likely to know the right parties to help connect you with, to give you maybe a referral to someone who does exactly what you're looking for, like finishing out your basement. So definitely stay in touch with your agent. They are your partner, not just for this transaction, but for whatever you need in the future as well. We've gone through the whole transaction from the very first strategy session all the way through closing and beyond. Is this the end? No, it's not the end. Your agent is your agent. They are your person to represent you and to help you along the way. I talked about some of the home maintenance things and some of the future planning you may look at. If you decide to maybe upgrade or downsize or whatever, move to a different location in the future, your agent's still there to help you. They can help take you through this process again and guide you along the way. They're there to help you with projects once you have them, help refer you to people. They're there to help your friends and family if they need to move. They're there to help teach you about real estate investing if that's something you want to do to add to your portfolio, to really look at what buying a cash flowing building could do, or a home flip, or owning rentals. These are all things that your real estate agent can help you with. Even though this transaction is over, it doesn't have to be the end of the relationship. They're there to help you along the way. So be sure to stay in touch, whether that's following them on social media, messaging or texting them when you need them, or just checking in every once in a while to update on market conditions. Maybe you're looking to sell your home in the future and you want to know what it's worth at that time. Reach out to your real estate agent. They're there to help you. I hope this has been helpful for going from the very start of the process all the way through the end and then beyond into the future. There's a lot that goes into every real estate transaction and hundreds of hands that touch every single one. It's a big process, but it can be greatly streamlined and simplified with having the right agent in place. Have a great day and good luck to you on your next real estate transaction.